You look like a
So,
law professor now and then.
The first thing I just wanted to mention, trust me, I'm not making light because I know you have some serious concerns, but since they are putting a dog park, I've always been told don't make snow angels in the dog park. That's all I got.
That's enough. All right, well, thank you, everybody. We're here from National Fuel here tonight to just go over our project. I'll just give you a quick general description of the project, and then we'll open it up. I think we're here to answer some questions. That's the main purpose of the meeting, that the landowners had some concerns, and we want to be here to be able to hopefully answer those questions for you and relieve any of those concerns that you might have. Basically,
Who are you?
I'm Mike Barber, National Fuel. I'm the engineering general manager, work out at Erie, Pennsylvania.
And my name's Wayne Graham, Graham, and I'm an environmental compliance manager, also out of Erie, Pennsylvania.
I'm sorry, could you repeat that?
Sure, Wayne Graham, Graham, and my title's environmental compliance manager, and I'm also out of our Erie, Pennsylvania office.
Yeah, thank you.
Matthew Dubowski, last name Dubowski. I'm the assistant manager for the land department at National Fuel, also out of Erie.
And I'm Christopher Davis, construction manager for National Fuel, also out of Erie.
So our project here in Center Township, we're laying about 2.7 miles of 12-inch steel pipeline. We have a station at our existing transmission pipeline that'll take the gas off of that system and then deliver it through Center Township. Our line extends then beyond Center Township to the Shell plant. The gas is to be used by Shell. The pipeline that we're tying to, interestingly enough, I don't know how much you guys have heard of National Fuel, but that pipeline has been here since 1947. It's a 20-inch transmission line, and we've been kind of probably the quiet neighbor, I would like to say. We've been in this area, we operate that line and take good care of it, and I'm sure you've had no problems with it in your backyards. With that, I guess we'll just open it up for questions.
What is your maintenance and inspection schedule?
We follow PHMSA requirements. PHMSA is the operating arm for the US DOT, and they have a whole row of requirements. It's basically Part 192 code requirements that we follow.
So not like every 6 months you dig down and look, or every 2 years? That's kind of like the answer I was looking for, a time frame of.
Well,
how often
there's
you
a
inspect
lot
and
of different O&M things that we take care of on the line. We don't necessarily dig up the pipeline just to look at it,
Okay.
but we do run assessment tools, and that's about every 7 years that you would run an assessment of the pipeline through what we call high consequence areas, and this area would be considered a high consequence area because of the amount of population that lives near the pipeline.
What about our aerial patrolling
And we do other patrols, aerial patrols, foot patrols of our line on a regular basis as prescribed by PHMSA, Part 192. Yes, ma'am?
I have a couple questions for Chris Davis.
Yes.
Are you frequently on site?
Yes.
As a,
Yes.
okay. And you said you've been in existence since 1947?
That's our pipeline. We've had a pipeline in Center Township that long.
Okay. And I've never heard of any problems with it. Have you had any problems, violations, pollution, water pollution, and anything
Not
like
to my
that?
knowledge, and
No
no.
violations against you. The other question I had was, I was told on one hand that your line can be 12, where it's going to intersect with Energy Transfer's line on Ivy Lane. It's going to enter, I was told that they can be 12 inches apart in the ground But then the other day I was told 24 inches.
The code requirement that we follow is a minimum of 12 inches
What was your
separation.
plan?
We plan to typically we would be 24 inches, and that's probably what we would
Maybe
go with.
24.
That's from top of pipe to the bottom of. the
From
other
one pipe to the other, the
Right.
total distance between the two
Right.
pipes.
Do you know which one of you is gonna be the deeper line yet?
Well, we won't know that until we go to put our line in, depending on how deep their line is at that point.
I'm supposing yours is gonna be going in first, right? Because your projection is for July.
We're not sure, I mean,
Yeah,
so whoever goes in first could very likely go deeper, just to
Okay.
accommodate the other one. We're working closely with Energy Transfer, and, we'll work on those details as whoever gets there first.
yeah, I had heard that. The other question I had, and please bear with me.
No, it's fine.
With the two lines intersecting, should there be a problem with the Energy Transfer line? And as you know, we did have a problem prior, and they've had some problems in other states on many other projects. If there's another problem with their line, is that gonna precipitate a problem with your line to whereas we have a much bigger problem than we had in September?
Well, our line is gonna be smaller diameter, so it would typically have, I don't know what pressure theirs ran at the time of failure, but, our line would probably have quite a bit less energy in it than their line, so, what that would contribute to it wouldn't be much greater, I wouldn't think.
I mean, the concern is that if one line blows up, it could trigger your line. That's our main concern.
If both pipes are carrying flammable gas, if one blows, will the other one blow?
I mean, regardless of the pressure. When they're close together like that, I was there for the explosion, it was big.
Right.
So that was one gas line. So our concern is with the two intersecting and being so close together, that a problem with one, and we're not feeling confident there won't be problems with that one. It could precipitate an even bigger event than we had.
Yeah, I don't, can't speak for Energy Transfer, but I think they'll have to speak about their line. Our line's gonna be 3 to 5 times stronger than it has to be. The steel that we're using is, we're using 33% more wall thickness than what's required by code for the steel itself. So, we're making it much stronger than it even has to be by design, so that hopefully that will help alleviate any chance of a problem.
Did you want to talk about shutdown valves as well?
That
we
too,
have?
yeah.
Yeah, we
Yeah,
also
as close
have,
as it is.
we'll have control, our SCADA, we have a 24-hour a day SCADA system that will be able to monitor for anything that, might happen
Right.
like that. They would be able to shut off the supply of gas,
Do you have remote, are you gonna have
remote
shut-off?
control,
Yes.
yes.
And the distance between your shut-off valves?
To where?
Between each shut-off valve, so that you can cut off at the point.
We'll
of
have a
damage.
shut-off valve at the start of our line at our new station, so there'll be a remote control valve there
And someone
Which
monitors
from-
that is only,
24/7?
that,
Yeah,
yes.
we have a gas control,
Really?
we have a gas control
Okay.
group that is manned 24/7.
But that location does not have people at it.
No, it won't be
It's all
people there,
remote.
It's all
it's all
remote.
remotely.
Okay. Yeah, but you don't just remember that.
And from the Energy Transfer line, it's roughly a little over a mile to that station, to that remote control valve at
So
that
that can be
station.
shut off.
Correct,
Okay.
yes. And there's
Okay.
people that man that center in Buffalo, New York, round the clock.
Okay,
And they see the flows and everything, and they can shut those valves as soon as whenever they need to.
okay. And I understand that, this is monitored by FERC as well.
Mhm.
So do you have to submit regular reports to FERC or PHMSA?
We do both.
Okay, okay,
Yes, there's lots of reports to both agencies.
okay. Thank you very much.
Yep.
Thank you.
Just getting back to Sue's one question, so your pipeline is going to be built stronger than what needs to be, but I don't know if the question was really answered. I mean, if one of the two, if there's an event, the other one still could possibly.
I mean, how
Event as
confident
well.
are you that won't happen? Could you give us a ballpark percentage?
No, I can't answer that question offhand without
We are very
specifics.
comfortable about the integrity of our line. I can tell you that.
Would you be as comfortable if you were living right next to it?
Well, I understand, and I got to know the Rosatis a little bit when we were first out here looking around, and I feel your pain, believe me, I really do. I can honestly tell you that and maybe it's not fair for me to make this statement because I am in the industry, but what we do with our lines, I'd feel very confident, I really would. And that's an honest to God, true answer.
To be respectful, we're not as concerned with your line
Okay.
based on the research we've
Understand.
done. It's the issue of two lines and continuous problems
Yeah.
with the other one.
Yeah, and we have to cross them somewhere, that's the thing. You just have to. There's nothing we can do about that.
Is there not a better site to cross over? Like,
I think where we are crossing is a good site. It's pretty flat where we're crossing. Chris has been out there, Wayne's been out there, they can speak to that.
Okay, I realize that it's flat, but it's also an area that's classified as wetlands, it has streams, it's got marshes, it's got springs. And the landslide in the springs caused the explosion for the first one. I realize it's a couple 100 feet away from the explosion site. It's just that land still has not been stabilized. So we have great fear,
Well-
And
Let us tell you a couple things that we're doing to try to alleviate that. Actually, we have a third-party company that comes out, and they're going to be out throughout our whole construction process. They're going to be evaluating the soil in any of these slope areas. They're going to be looking at it and saying, is this an area that we should be concerned with? Is it a highly erodible soil? Is there something that we can do here? And we have different techniques that we can use, and maybe Chris, you could talk to that just a little bit, that we can do in those areas to make them a more stable area.
Yeah, so
but
like,
do you mind, who is the third party? Can you name them?
Yeah, it is.
Tetra Tech.
Tetra Tech is the
Yeah.
name of the company.
I've seen
It's
that
a civil
before.
engineer.
so, and we've already had them out. I've had them out, they've walked the project, on some of the slopes. On the northern end of the project, I've already had them looking at, around the shell plant. So they'll be out there with us anytime we're ditching through these slopes, to look at the soil horizons and give us recommendations on what's the best way to put these slopes back, so that they are stable, so that they don't cause any issues, so they don't slide.
I have seen them.
Yeah.
So the actual consultant that did our original work on our environmental studies is GAI Consultants. They're a local firm. And they provided information to the FERC, Federal Energy Regulatory Commission, regarding areas that have landslide potential, and those are ones we're focusing on as well.
And the other thing too, on a lot of the slopes on the project, our focus is to route our pipelines so they go up and down the slopes. We mitigate anything cutting across the slope just due to those soil instabilities that you can run into, and putting them back. It's easier to go up that slope, bench it, and then put the material back in a stable manner. So we do a lot of that.
That's
you know,
one of our
route.
main, I guess, we look at several different things when we're out originally routing a pipeline, especially a new pipeline. If it's an existing pipeline that we're replacing, we usually try to put the line as close to the existing line as possible, and there's times we can't do that, and it's usually because of topography issues, or maybe there were buildings closer than when it was originally put in. But we really do try to do those vertical routes, because if there is some type of a slide, if the land slides down, it's going with the pipe. It's not going like a side where it puts that shear pressure on this side of the pipe. And you can't always avoid it, but we try to avoid as much as we can. And in this area where we're near you folks, I think we did a good job of being in that position where we wanted to be. And actually, when I met with Mr. and Mrs. Rosati way back when, they were kind of, well, can you go down here and be along this one? And it was, well, we really don't want to be there. And they understood, and we were working with them to accomplish that.
This 12-inch pipeline starts where? At the well pad down on the bottom of Gulf Coast
Yeah,
Road?
golf course road.
Yeah, that new pad that we built down there.
Okay. And then it's gonna tie into a 20-inch line?
Our 20-inch line is right beside that
Yeah.
pad.
That's our existing
Existing
line.
line.
That's our existing line, comes right through there.
Oh, your existing, oh, it comes right through.
Mhm.
So you'll just go from your existing line straight to the pad? You're not gonna cross Golf Course Road?
No.
Correct.
Okay.
Right.
The pad was situated in such close proximity to that line so that we just come off the main line. We'll have a main line block valve that has automation on it, and then come down into the pad and into the facility there at the pad, and then leave out I believe it's the northeastern corner of the pad for this
So is this
alignment.
line coming, feeding gas out of the 20-inch line?
Yes,
Yes.
And taking it to the shell pad?
correct.
Yes.
Okay, are you crossing Raccoon Creek at all?
No.
Okay, so you're going on the expressway side,
That's correct.
okay? And you're beginning to already bore partially under the expressway.
We haven't started
No, we
that.
have not
You haven't started that part, but
Right.
you've
No,
done.
we're right up near there, yes.
Yeah, but you're under the parking lot of the bus garage.
Correct,
Yes.
that's right. Yep.
Okay.
After one pipeline is in the ground, okay, what's to stop the next pipeline equipment from damaging the existing pipeline?
Oh, we have a one-call system that everybody's required to call. If they're gonna do any digging, they have to give us 3 days of notice, so we would be able to go out and check to see what was going on. We have an encroachment policy that our land department runs where we look at their plans to make sure what they're gonna do with, the crossing is safe, and won't affect our line if somebody else is gonna cross us.
Yeah, and generally, we get a written agreement with the folks crossing our line, and we would have somebody, company representative on standby, while they're doing the work in our pipeline.
Will the crossing be marked above ground?
Usually there are markers because we have cathodic protection and we use test stations and need to check to make sure we don't have any interference. So, yeah, usually there's markers at the crossings.
There may be even additional markers there because of our cathodic system.
Any heavy equipment won't damage the existing pipe, even though it's like,
No, we make sure that anything crossing our line, either we pad the line or,
Bridge it.
air
bridge
so
it,
that
yep.
any equipment that needs to cross it can do so safely.
Yeah, and generally, we get specs on the equipment that's crossing it and do a wheel load analysis, so we analyze it.
after the pipeline is covered, are you gonna pack it down, or are you just gonna leave it settle naturally?
We pack the back, when we backfill, it gets compacted as we're backfilling so we
So there won't
don't,
be a
so we
dip
don't
in
get
there.
dips and
We
things
actually
like that.
try to crown it
Yes,
to
we
some
try to
level
crown
so
it.
that it has a little bit of room.
Yep.
When you do your inspections, is it an invasive type of inspection?
Can be.
No, on the actual pipeline we're building, we employ an X-ray company. We X-ray 100% of the welds that are made on the pipe, and then we hydrostatically test the pipe once it's all complete in the ground.
Okay.
So those are the requirements that we have set forth that exceed those by PHMSA, who we ultimately are governed by.
Are these the same type of tests that you do on the existing pipe that's there right now?
On our 20-inch line, well, Chris was talking about construction inspection,
Yeah.
I believe.
I'm talking about the one that's been there for 40 some odd years.
We run inline inspection tools through that existing
Okay.
line.
So it is invasive then?
Right, and that's
Okay.
an internal tool, yes.
Do you use any type of x-ray on the outside of it, like through ground x-ray or anything?
Not of the existing line, no.
Okay. I just wondered how you're sure of the integrity of the line, the thickness that remains.
Those tools can
yeah.
read through the pipe wall,
Okay, that's
basically,
good.
all the way
Yeah.
through.
And then there are times where we'll actually do a direct assessment,
Mhm.
dig that line up and
Yeah.
inspect it and actually dig it up and if we have anything
Certain
that
spots,
shows.
for
Yeah.
certain locations.
Yeah, so if that inline inspection does yield something that we just don't like or is getting close to those requirements that we have to meet, we will, like Wayne said, do that direct inspection, go dig the area up, inspect the pipe. I just want to get back to the crossing information that the gentleman in front of you had. Like Matt said, our local field usually, once that one call's been made by the other crossing company, that local field will be notified and they'll have a representative on site watching our pipeline as they're excavating around it to make sure that nothing gets, that our pipeline does not get impacted, and if it does, that the proper measures are taken to, you know, if it's a live line, to shut the line down until assessments can be made. So that's what we do when people are crossing.
So if you do detect the problem, you can.
Depending upon the severity of the damage. Yes.
Okay.
I mean, I believe that National Fuel will get to the crossing point first. We're gonna stabilize the earth, and then we're gonna have Energy Transfer come in, because they're gonna have to dig there and go over it, destabilize the land, and they have not been successful stabilizing any of that hill. So, where do you fit in? Once they go over top of you, is it?
We'll inspect anything that they do and make sure it's put back to our satisfaction.
Okay.
Was that a normal thing that you did?
Yes.
It is.
And what about at the crossing point? Any special monitoring or testing that's being done between the two pipelines?
Just our corrosion protection inspection that gets done on a regular basis.
Okay. Is there anything special there at that site to do the corrosion testing?
There'll be test stations, so we'll have wires from the pipe coming up to an above ground marker, so to speak, and then we can, our technicians can come in and check to make sure there's no interference between the cathodic protection systems.
That's why we may have extra markers out there.
And is that typically at an intersection of two pipes?
Yes.
Two steel lines,
Two
yes.
steel lines,
Yep.
but not normal through the rest of the line?
Any place where there's another steel line crossing, we would have that, yes.
And then in other places, just to locate our line, we will use what we call line markers. So you probably see them on the sides of the roads here, delineating any kind of local producer or any lines like that. So we'll have those spaced out among the right-of-way as well, along that pipeline corridor, so that you have a visual reference of a below-ground facility.
Those are typically intervisible, so if somebody was standing somewhere, they should be able to see one this way and one that way.
We also have our name and emergency contact information on those as well.
Another question, we talked about shut-off valves, and you mentioned that there's one at the interconnect station. Is there one also at the Shell plant itself, or somewhere else in between?
Yeah, gas won't be able to flow backwards from that site the way we're set up now, but yeah, there are remote control valves there as well.
How do you identify the inside of your pipe? Like, if you send something through that pipe, how do you know that the information you're getting is of this section and not a duplicate of this section?
It has a continuous log. It's recording information as it goes through the pipe. It marks every weld that it crosses. It's a weld, you know, gives a distinct signal from the inside of the pipe when it goes across there. So we know every joint basically, and they're all different lengths, even though they all might say, you think they're all 40 foot, when you get down to the 1/10 of an inch, you know, they're all slightly different. So we know they're.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I'd like to talk a little bit about the interconnect station. I understand that there's gonna be some noise level that it's going to emit. And I'm asking this because I'm gonna explain our situation on Ivy Lane. Before Energy Transfer came through and took down a lot of trees, and then we had an explosion which took down more trees. We had a very quiet neighborhood. Now, I can hear everything from 376 all the way up. And now we're putting in this interconnect station also. There is no doubt we're gonna hear it. So talk to me about the noise level and what's being done to suppress the noise that's gonna come out of that station.
Well, one thing we do is citing it with the elevation. It sits below the existing elevation on how it's built. With our existing line and right away, it's, I wanna say about 12 feet in the one area below, you know, it sits below it. So that way to help mitigate noise. So it sits in the valley.
What about those houses that are around it?
It sits below them.
It sits below the
Yeah,
houses.
there's a high wall of soil there to
Help deflect that
help
sound.
mitigate that noise.
So FERC actually has some requirements as well, the FERC does, and I'm not a noise guy by any means, but it's basically 55 decibels at the nearest, they would call like a house, the nearest
Noise sensitive area.
Noise sensitive area, thank you, Matt. And so we have to abide by that. Now, what we do as far as construction measures,
Right. Yeah, and we'll monitor that. This station isn't going to be a large pressure cut station, so it shouldn't create a lot of noise. But if it does, there's many things we can do to abate that as well. We can insulate piping and put up some sound barriers as well. So
So if the residents have a problem, who do they contact about that?
it would be us here at National Fuel.
It would be you guys. So, do you have business cards with phone numbers or whatever so that we would
Yeah.
know?
yeah, Carly Menino is our corporate communications. She's right here as well, and she can give you her card. That's the best way, and she can get a hold of whichever one would be the best to address whatever your concerns are.
Okay.
How many PSI pressure is gonna go through that line?
The pipe is being designed at a 1,440 PSI.
That's its maximum?
That's its MAO, maximum allowable operating pressure, yes.
Will you tell us when it gets turned on?
Pardon?
Will you tell us when you're gonna use it?
We typically don't make those notifications, you know, to residents in the area.
What about to local officials?
I think-
Because when the Energy Transfer pipeline exploded, we have Barbara here who was one of the very first people to get through to 911, and she had to convince them that a pipeline had exploded because nobody knew about it.
Nobody knew it was turned on.
Nobody knew about it. We were hoping that you would at least tell our local officials and 911 center so that they could be prepared if there is indeed an emergency.
We certainly can do
Yep,
that.
I'm sure we could do that.
Or the township, so at least we have that information.
The other thing we do at the end is our GIS department, once we have an as-built of the line, they do communicate with the local one-call centers to make sure that they have that line located on their mapping so that when a one-call ticket comes in the area, they understand that there's a new facility in the area and they can obviously notify us as an affected entity in that area. So that's one thing our GIS department does.
When the SCADA system sees that there's a break in the line or some type of malfunction, does it automatically notify officials, or does it have to go through a human being?
It would have to go through a human being in our SCADA system.
And they would have to read roughly what happened? Do they have to get some type of notification? In other words, do they have to have eyes on first to find out what's going on, or do they know what's going on? I understand that
Yeah.
there could be a small leak and they would have to
Right.
figure that out, or holy crap, we're losing thousands of, you know.
That's, I don't think none of us work in
No.
the SCADA group, but it is, yeah, so that's something we would have to try to get in.
I'm sure that we wouldn't have to actually have someone come down here to be able to shut it off if
There would
it
probably
was
have,
a
you
release.
guys probably have some type of threshold.
Right.
If it's going this fast, hey, we better notify somebody. Right?
Yeah,
Fortunately,
they're gonna know
Right.
through measurement that it's not
Yeah.
right.
We've really not had those situations, so.
Well, yeah, we understand.
Yeah.
but
No, that's a good
unfortunately-
question. I
Unfortunately, things happen.
understood.
One of the things we've seen with the energy transfer pipeline is as you go down Ivy Lane, every house on the left side, all the way down, has a big mound of dirt behind it
Yeah.
from the digging from the pipeline, which now is preventing water runoff, typical water runoff from people's backyards. So now we're going to bring the pipeline to the National Fuels pipeline is gonna be on the other side of Ivy Lane, behind Sue's house, behind my house. Are we gonna see those big mounds there also that are gonna obstruct water flow from our properties?
There will be mounds for a short duration during construction, but we always have openings in those mounds so that they're not just backing water up. So if the water comes down to those mounds, it can get through, and then we also will have temporary water bars that will cross the line and allow that water to get through. When we're done, we put everything back to original contours, but we leave those water bars in place so that we have good drainage across there.
But
The
you
only-
think
the only-
the mounds will be temporary, eventually they'll go away?
Yes.
Yes.
After,
Yes,
okay.
Yes, yeah, we're
Yep.
obligated to go back to original contour or very close there too.
Okay.
Yeah, the first mound you would see would be the construction company coming through and just trying to make as level as possible in area 2 work, so it's safe for the equipment and the personnel working. The second mound you'd see would be the ditch spoils that are there, and those would be placed, and then once the pipe's in the ground, the ditch spoils would go back in, and then the restoration crew coming behind would bring everything back, like Wayne said, to the existing contours, or as close as possible to existing contours to make the slopes safe.
The only place you won't see the water bars and go back in is typically in agricultural or residential actual lawns or agricultural areas where the farmers don't want to keep going over those dips with their equipment because it's hard on their equipment. But everywhere else we put those in and they're permanent features.
After the pipeline is put in, how soon will you, before you will seed? How soon will the grass seed go down?
So what we do is we put a temporary seed on areas that we're not going to be disturbing. So these spoil piles that you were talking about originally, within 4 days of those being graded up, we'll mulch and seed those, or seed and mulch them, seed and then mulch. And then when we're all done, we'll bring that back, and typically within 30 days of getting the pipe in the ground, we'll do our final restoration.
That'd be wonderful.
When ATVs and the motorcycles start riding up and down your
Pipeline right
pipeline,
away.
who do we call for you to get on their back?
Probably me.
Our land
I'll give you my card. So.
Yeah, and we don't want them on our
No,
lines,
I don't want
you
them
know,
there either.
yes.
I will tell you this, from our vantage point where our property is, we see in the woods. In the past, I would get on the phone, I would call Rosati's, I would say, hey, we got people back there that should not be back there. He would take care of it, it was his property. Now we don't know what to do. We
Well,
don't know what to
there
do.
used to be, my son and I used to hike back there, and often we'd see where there were parties and a little fire lit. So we certainly don't want them doing that.
No, we don't need any more fires back there. Yeah.
When you guys are doing the seeding, will it be a hydro seeding, will it be by helicopter?
It won't be by helicopter.
Okay.
We do sometimes hydro seed. It's really a contractor's decision on how they do it. They might bring lime trucks in and then fertilizer and spread it that way,
Okay.
or they might hydro seed. They have the option.
Yeah, most of the time they'll use tractors with large broadcast spreaders on the back to apply the seed itself.
I have a question, let's go back to where the interconnect station is. Because I know that the interconnect station, there's a little stream that runs near it. And that stream is actually flowing across Golf Course Road now, when there's some rains coming. Is that something that's falling under your jurisdiction to take care of? Because I know that there's also the what do you call them, the socks and that sort of stuff along the stream bed also. So what's being done for that road and for those people who need to travel that road to get through, since it's
All
gonna
right,
be-
so we really don't have anything to do with the stream other than the fact that we're protecting it.
Yeah.
Our road runs alongside of it for a distance, and then we kind of get away from it. But we protect it through construction. But if they're having issues with it washing out culverts or whatever, that's probably more of a township issue than it would be ours.
Township issue.
Yeah.
Well,
Okay.
I think that's actually a state road.
Okay, sorry.
That's a state
Okay.
road.
Might be a pen.
Yeah, it would probably be a PennDOT issue.
Okay.
Question, it's not technical, but, living on Ivy Lane, if you lived there, knowing what had happened and what you guys were doing, how comfortable do you feel going to bed and putting your children to bed, knowing that this is happening?
Well, National Fuel safety is one of our top priorities. I know a lot of companies say that, but we really live that in everything we do, and we preach that to our contractors that are installing the pipe. We preach it to our inspectors and Chris's group that's watching. We have full-time inspection to make sure everything's done right. Chris talked about the x-raying that we do, the pressure testing that we do to ensure the pipeline is safe, and we take it very seriously, and you know, our goal, we're part of INGA, which is the Interstate Natural Gas Association, and the goal of that organization, which is a lot of the natural gas transmission pipelines throughout the whole country, is 0 incidents. That's our goal, and that's what we strive for.
And you've had 0 incidents?
We that's our goal, is 0 incidents.
So how many incidents have you had?
We've been in business for 100 and some years. I couldn't tell you how many incidents in that time frame.
We have not had any explosions or major incidents of the sort that you guys unfortunately have had to live through. Unfortunately, we have to wrap this up because I know you're waiting to talk to ETP, but you know, if you have any additional questions, please feel free to ask them, but otherwise Carly is going to provide her contact information. If you have any questions after this, you can feel free to reach out to Carly.
Okay, what is it?
I have business cards, but I will. Carly Menino, N-A-N-I-N-O. I'm with Corporate Communications. My phone number is 814-871-8199. And my email is maninoc@napfuel.com.
Could I ask a marketing question? I'm an old marketeer. I understood that People's Gas was supplying the gas to Shell, but now, and is it gonna be through your pipeline?
Peoples is not associated with our pipeline. I don't know if
Must
they're
be-
doing
must be-
something else.
Must be separate. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Hey, thank you for giving
Thank
us
you.
the
Yes, thank you.
opportunity, and those were a lot of really good questions, and we do understand your situation, and we'll do our part.
I'll tell you this, before September 2018, we would not have known to ask any of these questions.
Understood.
So we appreciate you being gracious and answering them.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.